Welcome, my good friends. We're here in 7 Days to Die together with Jen. Jen is coming here to assist me a little bit as I make this spotlight of the Forge. Now, it was brought to my attention fairly recently that I actually had not made a Forge video ever. Not just for a while, but never. Oh, do you notice that I actually seem to blink my eyes? But Jen, while she breathes, she actually doesn't blink her eyes. She's good at staring. But anyway, we're back here in Alpha 19, and we're gonna do a spotlight of the Forge and everything that it entails, crafting, how to, well, the skills, etc, and everything about it. Because the Forge is actually one of the most useful crafting blocks that you have in the game. I would say it's more important than even the Workbench or the Chemistry Station. Now, if you're lucky, you can actually find forges in some of the POIs around. Unfortunately, that was actually a pretty lucky one. You can find it in some of the traders where they do have forges around. Sometimes they're working, sometimes they're not working. I think I must have looted. Another one. Oh, perfect. Sometimes they are unfortunately destroyed, but there's a chance, and I believe it's about 20-25%, to actually find this schematic. So even if you find a destroyed one, make sure you actually go and loot it, because it gives you a fairly good chance of finding the schematic, which is one of the ways to actually... Oh, and let me actually read that. One of the ways to actually get the skill to craft it. And if nothing else, you could get lucky and actually buy it at the traders. Now, unfortunately, Trader Jen doesn't have it. Just some other stuff. Unfortunately, no Forge. But you could find it.
Not one thing? Well, there's always next time.
What do you mean not doing? Oh, we're doing this video together, Jen. Please relax. I'll buy stuff later on. I've already given you money for this. So come on, I'm paying you for your time. Please. Anyway, if you're not lucky enough to actually find the schematic, you can unlock it fairly easily with 1 point into advanced engineering. You see, you are now a blacksmith and able to forge iron and other metal objects, craft forges, and craft items with them 20% faster. So really useful. Pump 1 point into it and suddenly you can actually craft the forge. And how do you craft the forge? Well, let's go look at the forge here. You craft in your inventory. You don't need to go to Workbench and anything. You just need some stones, which is of course easy. Clay soil easy as well. Leather kills some animals. Duct tape, you might have to do some looting or buy them. Possibly you could, I guess, craft it from glue and cloth itself. But you know, it's easy just to scavenge it. Short iron pipes are fairly... Yeah, no, they're closing. Short iron pipes are not too bad to actually get. If you find toilets and stuff like that, you just go to town and wrench them down. Go through a few of the POIs around, and if you're lucky, you'll find some... Come on, can I find some? And you're lucky enough, you actually get some pipes afterwards. So it's really simple to just wrench some things and you get the pipes. And I would generally say, if you can, try to get your forge up in the first few days, because it's really helpful when you're just starting to smelt things down. If you find one at the trader and you're going to be around that trader and it's functional at the trader, it's actually a really good place to just drop off your brass or your lead and stuff like that. Smelt it down so you can use it faster later on. So before we go into what to craft with it, there's actually some mods that you can use for it. And we have all three here. We have the Advanced Bellows, which gives you plus 50% forge smelting speed. We have the Anvil, which gives you a forge crafting speed. And we have the Crucible, which gives you the ability to craft steel items such as steel itself, forged steel arrowheads, and of course also the bulletproof glass. So this one is fairly useful. Now when it comes to Advanced Bellows and Anvil, you can buy them at the trader sometimes, or you can find the Advanced Bellows schematic. Reading it will allow you to actually subsequently craft it yourself. So if I now go to Anvil, for instance, means I can actually craft it, and this icon basically means you craft it in, well, the forge itself. So if I go Anvil, means that I just need some iron, I need some clay, and I don't have any clay inside, so let me do that. Now it will slowly smelt things down, and that's how it works. You see these values here? They're red is because I don't have enough for this specific crafting, but as you put things into these slots, there's actually 2 slots for it, it will every couple of seconds, so depending on what this is, feed into the forge itself, so it smelts it down. This iron smelts in, brass, lead, sandstone, and clay. You use fuel, which can be either just regular wood items or coal. Normally just get wood, it's really simple to make. Coal I would save for other things such as gunpowder. But once you've unlocked the anvil, some iron, some clay will give you an anvil. The bellows themselves actually doesn't require you to have the forge. You can actually craft them early on if you really have the schematic and you have the resources. Some wood, leather, pipes, duct tape, and nails. Nails, of course, you can loot, you can buy them, or you can craft them in the forge. So the main issue is really finding the schematic. Now, when it comes to the crucible, crucible is not really that useful early on, but if you find it, keep it, because it saves you a lot of headache later on. So let's go and find the crucible, which I have locked here because I haven't read it. Let's do that. Now I have the crucible. It's crafted in the workbench. It's not crafted in the forge itself. So you have to go to your workbench, assuming you have one, or find one around in the world. Requires forged iron, which you get from the forge. Mechanical parts, you scavenge that from, say, cars. You can get them from certain other items like trolleys and everything. Stone oil, also scavenge from cars, is pretty good, or you can craft it yourself, but probably not early on. Soil, of course, is just digging up in the ground. So once you have all these items, just put them in. Of course, I'm left clicking now. You notice when I put this one in, I get the ability to do forged steel, because that's really, really useful. So if you don't have the bellows or the anvil, don't worry, it just makes the forge more efficient. It doesn't give you anything beyond that. You can craft more or less things whether you have it or not. So how do you actually craft? Well, you go to your forge, make sure you have stuff inside it, and let's do nails actually. You'll see it requires 1 iron and 1 clay per each, and I have 258 and 204, but it says I can't craft. Okay, so something is wrong. You can favorite it, of course, like anything we're crafting. You can tell how many you want to do. We can do up to 204 because that's how much clay we have. But I can't actually craft. It says I don't have the required fuel because I need to put fuel in. And as soon as you put it in, now it's lighted up, and now you can actually craft. So let's just craft 1. There we have one, another one. So it's pretty easy. It basically just reduces the amount of smelted material you have, and it crafts it. Of course, the more you have smelting here, it'll keep filling it up even if you're not doing anything, as long as you have fuel powering it. In general, if you select something that you don't have the resource for, it'll be grayed out. You see, we requires 12 stone. We have 0, so it's grayed out. If I want, for instance, forged iron, requires 12 and 6, and I have enough, which means it's going to be white. So that's a fairly convenient way of doing it. Another thing that you might have noticed, when I was trying to do the anvil, I required 1250, but I only had 309, and it shows this one as red because it's indicating that you actually don't have enough items in there or enough resources in order to craft it. If you do have enough resources, you see it's green. So it's a color indication that will just help you a little bit on the way. So why do you want to have the forge early on? Well, one of my really favorite ones is actually arrowheads. Making iron arrowheads, which requires just some iron and some clay, can be really useful in just crafting your arrows or your bolts, dealing more damage and saving the stone for other things. Also, it allows you to craft the cooking grill and, more importantly, the cooking pot, because these are 2 things that are required when you're doing some campfire cooking and you're getting food. And of course, we need food in order to survive. So if you don't have a grill, don't have a cooking pot, and you have a forge, easy enough, just craft one. Another interesting thing is that if you look on the UI here, you'll see this campfire place here, which is actually because we have a buff that is called warming fire. So we have a cold resist plus 15. So if you're in a really cold biome, say in the snow, you don't have any warm people to snuggle up with, it can keep you alive, well, at least if it's really cold. Now, a short little discussion about heat generation. So forges, when you're using them, will increase the heat, and the heat is the activity map that can draw in the screamer. However, generally it's fairly low, so unless you have a lot of things that is happening at the same time, if you have 1 or 2 forges, it's unlikely that it's going to call in a screamer. But you have a few forges, you have your campfire, you have your chemistry station, you have a bunch of torches, yes, all together will add up to have more heat, which means you're going to call in a screamer eventually. I normally never have an issue with this, because even if you do have that coming to your base, if you put some spikes around your base or something, that normally will be enough to just kill the screamer, unless it actually detects you and calls in for friends. But I see that as part of the game, just part of the fun to actually have the occasional screamer horde coming in that you actually need to defend against. But if you do have a problem with that, some people actually like to put their forge forge bases or forge areas some distance away from your main base, let's say 50 or 100 blocks away. Make all your forges down in the ground or in a PI or something that has been reinforced, and just do all the forging there. The screamers will end up towards that location, and that can be a way to avoid zombies as well. So question that comes up now and then is that what happens if you put things in your forge, whether it's crafting or smelting things, and then you go away and do your other things? Will it continue working? And the answer is yes, it will actually. Even if the chunk you're in is actually unloaded, meaning that you're really far away. Let's say my base is here and I'm like somewhere over here. It means that this chunk, this area is going to be unloaded. It's going to be saved on disk, but it's not going to be in the memory. It's not going to be on the server itself. However, when you come back, the game is going to re-update. It's going to calculate based on the time and everything of how much has been smelting and how much has been crafting, which means that it's a really effective way to, before you go adventuring, just pump in a bunch of resources into it, smelt it down while you're out and adventuring. So when you come back, it's easier to craft because it allows you to just use the resources without having to just wait and wait and wait for them to smelt down in the first place. It's also really useful to have multiple forges. So what I normally do, I have at least two. I have one where I basically at least initially start smelting down normal stuff. Let's say I do my clay, I do my iron, and I keep it running. And this is where I do my normal crafting. Then I have a second one where I'm only using for stone, because that's how you get cement. And cement is really useful for, of course, when you're going to make the concrete mix and making a stronger base. So I usually have one or two at least of forges that are simply smelting down stone into, well, so I can craft the cement. Then I will have one or two, sometimes three, depending on how many resources I have and what I'm actually looking at smelting down, that I actually use. I might have one that is doing iron and clay, so I can make tons of dart trap ammunition, for instance. And then I might have another one that I'm smelting down lead and brass, because I want to have that for making my ammunition. Something to also keep in mind that, so let's say you're smelting one lead, it'll count down and it counts up by one. So what about things like a brass trophy? Now this is not a resource itself, it's actually a crafted item that is in the game, and I can scrap this one and I will get 37 resources. However, if I put it in and I do this, I will end up with more than those 37. I should end up with an extra 25%. So I think I should be getting about 50 here. So I think it should go up to 150 here if I'm not terribly wrong. And there it is, 150. So in general, don't scrap things unless you really need to. Just bring it back to your base, pull it up until you have a bunch of them, and just stick them into the forge and smelt the whole stack of it, because it will give you a lot more resources than if you scrap them first and then smelt the scrap brass. So lastly, what can you really craft here? Well, if we look at the first one, it'll show you the resources, a bunch of things in here that you can do. And what I really like to do is the water jars, gives you a lot of ways to get water. You have all the building stuff. I normally don't do this iron metal stuff. Metal fences and railings, ladders and stuff like that can be useful. Sometimes brick blocks, a lot of times it'll be the bulletproof glass blocks or the rebar frames. There's also, of course, all the ammunition things. You have the buckshot, bullet casing, tip, iron arrowhead, iron darts that I usually do because of my dart traps. You have the regular nails, let's unfavorite them, a steel arrowhead, and of course rocket casing, rocket tip. And then you have tools and traps, which is the usual stuff I mentioned about the cooking grill, the pot. You have the anvil, of course. It's really weird that the business class center isn't actually under here, but I guess it's considered a trap because it breaks when you step on it or you move into it. But that's about it. We're looking at Spotlight on the Forge. So, question to all of you out there. What day are you targeting to actually get the Forge up? Number 1, day 1, 2, 3, 7. What is really your aim when you're playing the game? Let me know in the comment section below, and let me know what other spotlights you want me to cover. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the Vedui community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.